So I'm talking today to Kerry Knight, who is a lactation consultant. Hi, Kerry.
Hi, it's nice to see you, Emma. Thanks for having me.
And yeah, lovely to see you. And you run the feeding space.
Yes.
And would you like to introduce yourself and then just tell us a little bit about what that is?
So my name is Kerry. I am originally and still am a pediatric and neonatal speech therapist. I've been working for the NHS for 6 years, and in South Africa, I was working in state hospital there. And I just zoomed straight into pediatrics and particularly neonates. I love working with moms and babies. I just find that this intimate relationship that someone's letting you into when you're in a really vulnerable space, such a privilege. And I just found that when I moved to the UK, the breastfeeding support just isn't there unless you're in dire straits and end up being admitted into a hospital, which is awful for parents and babies. You don't really get the help that you need, and so many people end up finishing pardon me.
Yeah.
So many people end up finishing their feeding journeys before they want to because they're having difficulties and support's just not there.
Yeah.
I had my own difficulties with feeding my own son. I had a breast reduction when I was 21, and the kind of surgery that I had, I shouldn't have been able to feed him, but I was very stubborn and I worked really hard and I actually was able to feed him. It just wasn't enough. So I
Yeah.
was in A&E on day 5
Oh,
with my
gosh.
son with weight loss, thinking I had completely failed him. And I know how emotive feeding is for parents. And
Yeah.
the reason I called it the feeding space is because I wanted it to feel safe and I wanted it to be open to parents who feed their children any way they wish to feed them. Because I'm a firm believer in not my boobs, not my baby. So how you feed your child is entirely up to you. And I wanted this safe space for support and education to try and help people further their feeding journeys, whether it's breastfeeding, bottle feeding, both,
Yeah.
in a way that works for a mom and their family.
Yeah,
So
because a lot of pressure actually, because there are some mums that don't want to breastfeed at all,
absolutely,
and then there's this stigma of, oh, you're a bad parent if you give it straight onto the bottle.
it's obviously I'm a lactation consultant, so
Mm.
breastfeeding is my primary passion.
Yes.
However, there are a lot of reasons why people don't want to or aren't able to
Yeah.
breastfeed.
Yeah.
And sometimes the parent might not be able to. And instead of saying, I can't, they say, I don't want to. And you don't know someone's backstory. And I think I. People say breast is best a lot. And from a science perspective, yes, absolutely. You can't replace it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't have a baby thriving on an alternative.
Yeah.
And if parents choose to bottle feed their baby for whatever reason, I want to be there to help them have a journey that still feels intimate, that still gets that relationship at the center, tries to make bottle feeding as close to breastfeeding as possible. There's different reasons and different ways you can approach feeding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the stigma is really, really tough. And I think mom guilt is rife throughout our lives, but around infant feeding, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I'm exclusive breastfeeding. I don't want a bottle. Why don't you want to let your husband feed your baby? Or look, why can't I, mother-in-law, feed? Whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You know, if you choose to exclusively bottle feed, oh, it's so bad. No matter what a woman
There's
does,
always something, or
someone always has
you
something
get
to
some mums
say.
that want to do it until they're 2, 3 beyond, and then they get bad stigma as well.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of benefits to prolonged breastfeeding, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of research in it. And the World Health Organization recommends breastfeeding until at least 2 years of age.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the gold standard should be. And if you leave this developed country and you go to other places in the world, like where I used to work, and
That's all you've
breastfeeding is
got.
sustenance. It's
Yeah.
free. I mean, the benefits are endless, but it's free. It's really good for the environment.
Yeah.
There's no waste.
You don't have to warm the bottle. Baby's not
It's
waiting.
instant.
Yes.
You know, it is designed for your baby. It follows them as they grow when they're ill. It adapts to help them fight infection. If you've got something, it helps protect them from what you have. It changes based on the temperature.
Yeah.
You know, it increases water content to help with hydration. It's phenomenal. So it cannot be replaced, and but you can still have a thriving child. And I think I leave judgment at the door.
Yeah.
Being a mom is hard enough. The last
Absolutely.
thing you need is people asking you questions. So I want you to feel held as a parent. And a lot of moms cry in our sessions because they feel listened to, you know, and I feel so often moms have been saying, I'm struggling with this, or this is painful, and people say, oh, well, breastfeeding is painful, or you're doing it wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's just what works for you.
Yeah.
So
do you work on a one-to-one though, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you do group sessions as well? 'Cause I know you've just done something locally.
Yeah, so that was something new I hadn't done before, and I loved
Okay.
it. I hosted a free drop-in session for an hour where I did some breastfeeding education at Chai Coco, which is a lovely business in town.
Yeah, in Maidenhead.
In Maidenhead,
Yeah,
yes.
in Berkshire.
And
Well, it's not local, is
yes,
it?
absolutely. And they have a really nice soft play space, and a coffee
Yeah. So
coffee
we've
and
got
play.
cafe separate, soft play at the back.
And we hosted in the back, which is great because
Oh,
I have friends who were
nice.
expecting and had toddlers, so the toddlers came and caused chaos, and I ended up shouting over 2-year-olds because 2-year-olds are loud, but it was
you've
brilliant.
got a toddler yourself, haven't you?
Yes, it's his mates. I left him with my husband, but so it was his mates there without him. But it was brilliant because I think we ended up having 11 mums, or maybe 10 mums and one dad, but a dad with a mum. And it was brilliant. The babies were all absolutely diddy, and I did some education and training, and I had a little boob box people could put questions in, because I can talk to anybody about anything, but not everyone in a room of virtual strangers wants to ask sometimes intimate questions
in front of everybody else.
So I had a Q&A box, which was a suggestion from a friend, which was great because people asked, and it opened the floor, and people just ended up being this brainstorming
anonymous
session.
questions.
Yes. And then people started asking questions live, and it was wonderful. It was a really good session, so I would love to do that again. And I have had some outreach off the back of that for clients, which is great. But typically it's a one-to-one.
Oh, absolutely, because it's a bespoke thing, isn't
absolutely. Every feeding journey is different. Every boob, every baby, every journey and trajectory, and what your aims are for. Every family has a different set of goals. I do offer antenatal education as well, so that's actually before baby arrives.
I was going to ask that. When is a good time to approach you for
depends.
Advice?
It just every family is different, but I do feel sometimes, especially I find with mums who are having second kids, they struggle with the first feeding journey. They know how to change nappies, what the signs are of illness. They don't need to do the whole antenatal class thing. They've got their mom group already and kind of in place, but they want to zoom into breastfeeding, particularly because they really want to breastfeed this baby. And that happens quite a lot, actually. So a one-to-one session with that would be virtual. And what I do is I have resources that I prepare and go through, which is the bog standard stuff, but then we have time to then go through what your concerns are, difficulties. Do you have any concerns around your breast structure or function? You know, sometimes moms have flat nipples, or there might be something that they feel could be holding them back, and that's an opportunity for us to really dig into what that family's goals are. So before is great. Most is after babies are here, and it can be anything from 3 days after baby's born to 4. I saw one last week for 4 months.
I've had two bad experiences with breastfeeding.
There you go.
So I've got 2 children. One of them isn't a child any longer. He's 23.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yes, and I've got an 11-year-old. So from my first, I was one of these, is that, oh, it's natural, straight away, beyond the boob, no problem. He wouldn't feed.
Yep.
He would not feed at all. I was in the hospital, and then they were like, oh, it's fine, they're a bit mucusy when they're first born, don't worry about it, he'll feed when he's ready. Very relaxed.
Yeah.
And it's strange how times change with the age gap as well. The attitude of like, you can't leave your baby. you need to feed your baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they were very relaxed about it. Then I managed to feed him.
Well done you. And despite the lack of support and encouragement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I got home and he wouldn't do it again.
And boys are fickle.
Maybe it was a boy thing. I don't know what it was.
They do tend to be a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Anecdotally.
And I was let down by the midwives. Yes. So the midwives were supposed to come and see me, and they didn't come and see me. And then I was sort of left. And then they when they eventually saw me, I'd all dried up and I was bottle feeding. My daughter, she was born with a severe tongue tie. And she was born, both my babies are December babies, and my daughter was born the 20th of December.
Oh gosh, right at the end, when it's ghost staff everywhere.
The was shut until New Year, so I tried to breastfeed her, and I knew that she wasn't taking anything. I could just feel there was nothing happening. So I'd keep her there for ages, just knowing that she wasn't. So then I'd have to top her up, and by the time we sorted the tongue tie out, I had dried up. So yeah, I had not very good experiences. Two
very different experiences.
Yes.
I'm sorry that people let you down and the system let you down as well. It's just not what mums should have to go through. You're in this huge life change. Your hormones are pumping through your system like absolutely crazy. You're running at a bajillion degrees. You feel sweaty, you feel stinky, you feel tired. You're hormonal. You want to, everything in your body says, I want to feed this child. And you didn't get the support you needed.
Yeah. So then obviously that's where you came. I mean, if I'd have known, and I was quite young when I had my firstborn as well, so I was early 20s, and I wouldn't even known that there was somebody like yourself that I could seek out, because I just relied on the NHS.
Yeah.
Like, they provide the health visitors, they provide the midwives, and you don't think of like finding
other
somebody.
services out there. Yeah, it is. The thing that's tricky is midwives do God's work, absolutely. They are so stretched. The NHS is rammed. Babies are popping out left, right, and centre, and they have a million and one things to do in their day. I work for the NHS. I know what it's like. So breastfeeding is just a small section of their day. And to be honest, at that point, they know that baby's fine, and there might be another mom who's in a far worse state. So they do have some education and training about breastfeeding, but it's not to the degree that a lactation consultant has had.
Yeah.
So they absolutely do know how to help mums with their initial breastfeeding, and they understand the concepts, and they've had infant feeding training, of course. But again, every trust is different, and everybody's knowledge is different, approach is different, and some people who've been around for a long time have a specific way of approaching things that works for them, but it might not be what research now shows. So it's really hard to tell. And I think that if you're having a bog standard breastfeeding journey, which unfortunately most people don't, but if you have a run-of-the-mill breastfeeding journey, first of all, lucky you, that's great. But that initial bit of time that they spend with you is brilliant. But if you're having struggles, it's really hard to get any more. And you get referred to some community support groups and breastfeeding support groups, which I would absolutely recommend. There are things in place that are free for parents who aren't able to afford private consulting services. The breastfeeding helpline is 24/7. And you can actually speak to someone who's trained on the other side of the phone. I believe it's 24/7, but I'm pretty sure it is. And there are other services available. But yeah, lactation consulting, I think, is becoming more and more of something that people are aware of. Although when I leave my flyer somewhere, I'm like, no, I've got a business, I'm a lactation consultant. And the lady was like, what? And I was like, what is that? Oh no, I work with families in breastfeeding. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
You still have to explain what it is you do.
I think it, and because it's so diverse, it's not just I teach mums to breastfeed. It's so much more to it, but in an oversimplified way, I guess. That is what it is. But it is a lot to do with, there's a lot of counseling involved with parents, a lot of reassurance. I think sometimes people just get given really bad advice, and to try and undo fear that's been instilled in you, especially when it comes to something like weight loss, that is hugely emotional and really stressful. And it's so hard. I wish I could show those parents. My son had significant weight loss, and we regained him, and now he's on the 70th percentile length and body weight, and he's thriving. But in those first critical weeks, when you see that graph, you just think, oh my God. And to be honest, with the weight loss, that I say to a lot of parents, there's some research that's looking into whether or not we need to consider using day 1 weight as a better indicator of a true weight rather than day 0, because straight out the womb, babies are full of fluids. Sometimes, especially if you've had,
but then it drops, doesn't it? The weight.
Exactly. So especially if moms have had to have C-sections for whatever reason, moms pump with fluids, babies pump with fluids, full of that meconium poo. They come out, they go and decompress. They have this giant poo, and then they've lost weight. Well, of course they have. So it would be very interesting, I think, if that is where the change happened. And breastfeeding babies, research shows that infants who feed with bottle feeding tend to regain birth weight by 10 days. And that's the goal, regain birth weight by 10 days. I think it's something like 96%, so please don't quote me, of breastfed babies regain birth weight by day 14. So if you just give them that,
slower, yeah.
well, the reason for that is volume. So colostrum gives their body absolutely everything they need in the first few days, but it's not huge volumes. It's got the nutrition, it's got absolutely everything.
All the antibodies
vital.
and everything.
Oh my goodness, you could not replace it if you tried.
I did make sure that my daughter had that, and my son as well. And actually, my son, touch wood, we've lived in Maidenhead for 14 years. He's at uni now. He's never been to the GP here, ever.
Shut up.
Ever. He's never
oh my gosh, I basically should have a calling card for the GP.
Yeah, but then my daughter has just been in and out, in and out, in and out. So very different and very similar experiences.
Yeah.
You know.
It is.
So it might not have anything to do.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. I think one of the things I would do say to families who wish to bottle feed is I would really recommend still doing those first couple of days.
Yeah, just
if parents have for some reason don't want to directly breastfeed, to express and give that colostrum, because
that's what I had to do in the end, because her tongue tie was so severe that we ended up doing that. Because they get that. It's called liquid gold for a reason. It lines their gut and it primes their immune system for the rest of their life. So it really is really critical. So that's something I really do recommend parents. And there's some parents who, trauma is a reason why some people don't want to breastfeed. No one talks about it. Or they don't bond with their babies.
Exactly. Skin to skin is the most wonderful bonding experience, and you don't have to be on a boob for that. So that's something, again, I really encourage bottle feeding families to do, is spend that time in skin to skin. They still get exposed to your microbiome on your skin, so they still get that benefit. And it's just so good for the soul. Makes everybody's system just calm down. It's this oozing oxytocin situation where you just get to feel relaxed and calm and happy. And so that's a really big thing that is super helpful for those families.
They talk about skin on skin. They don't really talk about the reasons why. You just sort of think about it as a bonding thing. But as you say, there's more to it than that.
There's so much more to it. So especially with tiny humans and in the NICU, it's something we really, really recommend. Skin to skin helps regulate baby's body temperature, heart rate, respiratory rate. It helps them regain their birth weight quicker, helps with their circadian rhythms and their sleep. It helps mom with pain. It helps them both with pain relief, quicker recovery. It helps with, your body, your boobs, if your baby's cold, your boobs will heat up to heat your child. And that, I believe there's been research where it shows if mom with twins and baby 1 is this temperature and baby 2 is this temperature, and our boobs are different temperatures to help. It's
science. We're animals, really, aren't we?
You couldn't design a better system if you tried. So skin to skin is revolutionary, and it's free. It's something that's so good for multiple reasons. And also, when moms are struggling with milk supply, skin to skin is one of the first things I say to them. Just let's try and remove the stress. Get your kit off. Get the kid in the nappy. Just sit there and just let all that goodness try and let your body do what it's meant to do. Switching your brain off as a parent is really hard. Switching your brain off as a new mom is impossible. But trying to quiet the noise, skin to skin is really good for that.
Wow, that's amazing. Because they always do that as soon as you give birth, straight onto your skin.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Straight away. But you talked about premature babies as well. So how do mums deal with that? Do they have to express their milk? And is that possible? Because they say that the suction from the baby is what
gets it going.
Yeah, gets it going.
So there's a couple of phases of what's called lactogenesis, which happens from 20 weeks is lactogenesis 1. So from that point, your body and your boobs have the ability to make milk, right? And then once your baby is born and the placenta comes off the uterine wall, that is when you work into lactogenesis 2, and that's that colostrum phase. But that's why from as early as 20 weeks, sometimes moms start to leak, you can start colostrum harvesting, which is recommended at a later stage if that's the journey you wish to go down. But moms with pregnant babies have the ability to make milk from 20 weeks. So once that placenta has come off the wall, that has a surge of hormones that causes that milk, that colostrum to be released. And then average is 3 days, but it changes a bit from when you go from what's lactogenesis 2, colostrum, to number 3, which is when your milk starts to come in. And that's a really, you need to try and get it out for that process to occur. And if you have a baby that's able to go on the breast, they go a bit mad on day 3. And we warn a lot of parents, like, day 3 is not for the faint-hearted, because they're actually trying to help you and your system go through that switch. So they're asking for milk constantly, and that's when a lot of parents think, I don't have enough. But baby's going, let's get this colostrum out and this milk in. But a pump can help. We normally recommend hand expressing colostrum. Pumps aren't really designed for colostrum harvesting or after birth the preemie.
That's what I had to do. I had to hand
and then and your
it
boobs
wasn't
are
a
also
nice
so fragile.
It wasn't the nicest. Mentally, I think, psychologically, it wasn't.
You feel a bit like a dairy cow, don't you?
You do a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know what? You just got to think, why am I doing
this? Absolutely. And I think parents with preemies in the NICU do often feel like a dairy farm, and it's remarkable how hard these women work to keep that supply up. But yes, with expressing, they can do that until baby's able to go to the breast.
Amazing.
It's quite hard for me because I am a pediatrics and neonatal speech therapist, so I work with babies and preemies, but when I'm in my lactation capacity, due to scope of practice and things, I can only wear one hat at a time, which my brain I can't turn off, of course, but I'd have to, if something was a concern that I think a speech therapist would need to see, I would have to then say, I suspect that you might need to do this or that, which can make lines a bit blurred. But expressing is hard work, and there are ways to optimize it. I spoke about that oxytocin situation with skin to skin, but that's what we recommend for moms who pump, especially moms who aren't able to be with their babies, is you got to make your body feel so happy. Turn the lights down, light a candle, have a cup of tea, put on Gilmore Girls, whatever your comfort show is. Listen to some music and let your body and your mind go.
There are some amazing breast pumps out there as well. I mean, I had this 24 years ago when I had my son, I had this manual. You get these ones that you can just shove in your bra, can't you? And
I mean, science has come a long way.
Yeah.
Wearable breast pumps can be convenient. They're not the most effective.
Are they not?
No.
Right.
So they are incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And they're unattainable for a lot of families.
A bit gimmicky, are they?
Any lactation consultant you speak to, the first thing we'll say is, if pumping is part of your journey, we would recommend a hospital grade suction pump. You can hire, especially for moms who have a period of time, like with the preemie, who aren't going to be pumping long term necessarily. You can hire hospital pumps, and there are also different brands that sell reasonable priced hospital grade suction pumps. And the reason for that is the suction is really good, and the design is more effective. You don't have the convenience factor. They're a little bit more bulky.
I think I've seen them, yeah.
However, if you have a wearable pump on, they try to sell it to you as, you can fold your laundry, you can go pick up your other kid from school.
But like Silicon Valley mums, isn't it?
But the reality is, unless it's perfectly located on your breast and your nipple, it doesn't have adequate suction. And it's very often moms will say, I was pumping in the car and I moved and suddenly all of this milk came out the front, because
you lose all the milk.
Yeah, so it's just because they will work better if your hands were on it and you kept them there. But if moms are wearing wearable pumps, they're doing it for a reason. So if that's the only way you get to pump, absolutely. But if we're trying to get your supply up, a hospital grade pump is better. It also forces you to sit down and take a moment.
As you say, relax, get it all going. Yeah.
And you'll pump for less time and get a better yield if you actually just stop and take a breath. And double pumping is also recommended because you, one, save time, and two, it just helps with extra stimulation. So and there's ways to try and use a pump. Some pumps will have pre-programmed systems in them. I quite like the ones where you can adjust the timing of the suck and the the pressure as well. So you can have a regimen, a pumping regimen that will help you to stimulate that to ultimately.
I think we're all picturing a farm with the cows.
Honestly, and they make some of them make wah wah wah, and you would have thought they'd make them quieter, but the hostel grade ones are not the most quiet, I will admit. They're not super loud. They've come a long way from when my friend was pumping back in the day. But
they
yeah,
do their job.
They do the job.
Yeah,
they really do.
Yeah, but is it a long-term thing? Can you do?
You can do. So there's some parents who are fully aware of the benefits of breast milk, and for whatever reason don't want to continue direct breastfeeding. And you know what? A lot of it happens when
they go back to work.
or they've had what they feel is irreparable nipple damage because they've had a poor latch or poor feeding, and feeding is so painful that they physically cannot do it any longer.
I remember when I was in hospital with my son, and one of the midwives suggested nipple shields.
Yeah.
What is that?
So a nipple shield, yeah, it kind of sounds like your boobs are going to battle, doesn't it? Well, they are. But so the nipple shields are a silicone nipple shield that goes over your breast onto your nipple and creates a slight pocket of air, which can act as like a reservoir for milk, and it just makes something to baby to grab onto. So sometimes if mums have had surgeries for whatever reason or have very flat nipples, that's very difficult to latch onto. And often with preemies, it's easier to latch onto initially with the nipple shield. So sometimes it's recommended try to use that in the NICU. But it's just a very thin silicone bottle teat kind of that goes over the top and it flattens against your skin. So that's what that is. Sizing is really important with nipple shields. You need to make sure that it's the correct size and fit, and it's the same with pumps. I forgot to say that. You can actually cause a lot of damage to yourself if your flange, the trumpet that goes on your boob, isn't the right size.
Too
small or too big. Both are really bad, because if you're sucking in loads of areola, you damage the areolas. You know, and if you're sucking in just some nipple but not all of it, you damage the nipple. So either way, you need to, I've got a fantastic measuring tool, which is great. I should have brought it. It's hilarious. It's a silicone ruler type thing, and it's got all these holes, and you can just so it's quite helpful, especially if parents want to know what flange size to order or what nipple shield to have. It's just flange size. Oh my gosh,
love the names. This is an absolute education. I'm in my midlife crisis going, is there room for one more? If I had another one, there would be 12 years between
all your spacing.
The 3 children.
Yeah, that's wild. If
I got pregnant this spring and had another one June, December.
Come on.
Could you imagine it?
Squeeze another one out. Why
not?
I'm only
46. But
look at you go. You could squeeze another one out. Go on. Oh my goodness. So, that's amazing. But all right. I
don't know if I could start again. That's the only thing. But
you've come so far. I'm still in the trenches. I didn't realise we were videoing, so hi everyone. But I came and I was clean this morning, I promise. I've got something, I don't even know what it is on me. I have a 2-year-old and it's just the life, isn't it? So
I think it never ends, by the way.
No, I know. I do sometimes feel that parents with older kids, you can correct me if I'm wrong, tend to get rose-tinted glasses about the earlier phases. And I mean, even now we have them over newborn phase, you know.
You get the broody. I mean, last summer I was terrible. I was going out my days out with, go to nice place like Bourton on the Water, go do like romantic summer days out. You see everybody pushing the prams, babies in the picnic blankets.
Easy to fantasize, isn't it?
And you think, I miss those days. I do miss those days. But then I remember them as well. I mean, my daughter, she wasn't the easiest baby. We've had lots of issues sort of physically with her. You have to see osteopaths and things like that. Right, so she was quite a cranky kid, and she still is at times. She's very consuming. She's very consuming. We've got lots of neurodivergent traits going on. So I think because
it takes a lot of time and input, doesn't it?
I've never even considered having another one while she was growing up, because she was so consuming. And
you also want to give her your full self, and I feel like it's a stretch, even when you have a run-of-the-mill journey, you know.
Which that doesn't really exist, does it?
No.
To be fair, like, nobody has a perfect child.
And that's what I would say. Don't believe what you see on social media. Oh my goodness. Social media.
Plonking the children on the counter while they're just cutting up the veg and doing all this.
I make all my food from scratch. And I do all these. It's unattainable. It's unrealistic. What I would say about social media as well is it makes you feel like rubbish in the beginning. So your algorithm feeds into your worst fears and anxieties.
It does.
So if you're in struggle city, I would go off social media and try to look more at like peer-reviewed papers and things that are actually founded on evidence. I would always suggest that with parents.
Or get out there and talk to other mums.
Absolutely. NHS website's actually fantastic for breastfeeding support, weaning your baby onto solids, and it's research-based, and it's something that I would always suggest because any moron on social media can give you recommendations. So if you're struggling, if someone is giving you suggestions, by all means go for it, but check their credentials.
Because they might just have
they know their stuff.
They might just have their own opinion.
Exactly.
This is what I believe, so do this.
And then they're trying to sell you a product, and it's in a subtle way that's not necessarily glaringly obvious. Always just tread that with caution.
It's the whole influencer thing, though, isn't it? Because they are influencing you, and if you're invulnerable,
and
you just had a mum, you're a mum, you had a baby, as you said, the hormones are going. You're just going to buy into anything, aren't you? You think, oh, is this going to work for me or my baby?
I had a client recently who, it wasn't actually a client, that's a lie. It was a patient that I saw at work, who had an incredibly refluxy ex-preemie baby, and she was buying everything that she was being advertised because she was just so desperate. And I was like, I totally get it, but you know, this is what you should do. See if you can return some of these items and stuff, because what they're selling you is not true. If we can go back to bottles, people love to say this bottle is as close to breastfeeding as you ever will. There's this new fancy brand, I don't even know what it's called. You can get it in like different skin colors, and it's all this very Instagrammy. The reality is nothing will be a breast. Okay, because silicone will never move like real tissue. So don't believe what people are telling you from that. The evidence is really, really weak. There is no evidence. What we need to be cautious of is flow rate. So not all bottles that are level 1 are the same. And so level 1 Tummy Tippy, level 1 Dr. Brown's, level 1 Man, they're all different. And slow flow with one brand is not actually that slow compared to slow flow from another brand. So
the baby could be gulping too much.
You could be drowning your child without realizing it, you know. And if you're a family who's trying to combo feed, you want a bottle to be as equally hard work as the boob. Because otherwise they get lazy. They're like, why would I work so hard at this boob when I can just lie here and just have a casual time with my with my other one? So definitely.
Does that happen then? Because you hear about these babies that refuse to come off the breast, like mums trying to wean the baby off when they're like 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, you might get children in the night. But then would it be the other way around, where the baby's like, actually, mum, nah, bottle?
Often.
Does that happen?
It does happen. It's really hard, because sometimes parents have had to introduce a bottle for different reasons. Someone's been unwell, or moms are recovering from their surgery, or have to take a medication that's not compatible with breastfeeding or pumping for whatever reason, and then you're into this bottle situation, and then sometimes it's very difficult to get a baby onto the breast. So going in both directions. If you're wanting your baby to take a bottle, you want to try and make bottle feeding as close to breastfeeding as possible, right? And then if you're wanting your baby to come back from the bottle to the breast, you want to make breastfeeding as close to bottle feeding as possible, and then gradually reduce that input that you're providing to make it more breast again. So things like adding breast compressions with feeding so the flow is quicker, using a nipple shield so they still got the silicone feel in their mouth, doing some hand expressing before you start so the leg down is instant rather than having to start without milk coming before the milk flow starts. There's a lot of different things parents can do, and that's something that I'm absolutely able to do to help families if babies are refusing the breast, or if there's something going on like that. There's things we can do to try and troubleshoot and try and get the baby to do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I would always say is if breastfeeding is part of your journey or part of your plan at any point, keep up your supply.
Yeah.
If they're not feeding directly, pump. It's once you go through a process that's called involution, you saying drying up.
Yeah,
once that happens,
I dried up so quickly.
It's
faster with my second.
It can happen a lot sooner in the beginning, but if you've been feeding for a while and then you stop, I think it's something like 60 days from your last breastfeed is when full involution or like the end happens. And actually some of those milk alveoli start to pop and you stop being able to make it. So the biggest thing is to keep up your supply, because then we can work to get baby back on. You know, as long as there's something for them to eat, we can always increase supply, but there's got to be something coming out for it to be worth their while. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And something that you mentioned earlier was the mum guilt. And that's what I had for not being able to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I also got quite angry for a lot of years actually with my first, because I would see other mums who go, like pregnant people, before being mums, and I'm not breastfeeding, not coming anywhere near my boob. It's disgusting. It's, you know, and I know a few people like that, and no, they're not. I'm not, and they just wouldn't have it, and I feel quite sort of angry. Like, I wanted to breastfeed,
envious, and they've made this choice. It's so difficult, isn't it?
And I even had one mum who just said to me once that, well, she said how unnatural it is to not breastfeed, and she said, I do not believe that that babies cannot breastfeed. It's natural, and all babies should be able to breastfeed.
That drives me mad. Yes, there are innate reflexes in babies, and we are biologically made to breastfeed, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And I think the mum guilt is huge. Parents feel like a massive failure when they can't breastfeed, and more often than not, it takes a lot of work because it's something you're learning to do and they're learning to do too. Our babies are born too soon in terms of how nature is designed. We get different types of animals. Our babies are called continuous contact mammals, like a kangaroo, or so that's actually, we don't have a pouch, but they're born still needing us very frequently, needing our body warmth, needing our milk often, compared to nesting animals that are born and are able to, they're off, you know.
Human babies are helpless, really.
They are, and they're genuinely, as far as nature's concerned, designed to be with you at all times. So yes, we do have those innate things, but it's something you've never done before. How often? I mean, I was saying parenting and breastfeeding. Who goes to a job without any experience and gets plunked right in the thick of it? You get no probation period. You get no induction. You're just like, no book in the world can actually prepare you for when that kid is in your hands. And your baby needs to learn you. You need to learn your baby, and it is actually work. And I think parents need to be told that more, because it's not, yes, it's natural, of course it is, we're animals. Is it easy? No. You know,
because some babies just can't do it for whatever reason.
And if that needs to be investigated, that should be investigated, and mums need to stick up for themselves too. And it's really hard when you're in that stage. Partners need to stick up for them. You know, you are in this highly emotive, highly hormonal, fatigue state. You're struggling to feed your baby and you feel like there's something wrong with you, but actually there might not be anything wrong. More likely there's nothing wrong with you. There might be something that needs to change, and sometimes it's something small. Often it's just a positioning and attachment thing, because someone hasn't seen you and your baby for long enough to find what works for you. And I struggle when parents are adamant that they don't want to breastfeed. And I have to remind myself that everyone has reasons that we might not know about. And I think it's important to give room for that. However, with those kind of families, you do need to, we always talk about informed choice. That's how healthcare works. You can choose whatever you want as long as you're adequately informed. So guiding them towards what the research says, what the evidence, how good breastfeeding is outside of just sustenance, because I think sometimes people often they oversimplify it to it's food and calories, doesn't matter where it comes from, but the benefits are endless from. So it's not easy for anyone.
And also we've got the whole media and the general public.
Oh.
So we've got a divide here, haven't we? So we've got the ones that you get we're talking about social media and the models and the actors, and they're like taking photos and on the beach breastfeeding. And then you've got the other side of it where don't breastfeed in public, it's disgusting, we don't want to see it. Or you get mums that are terrified.
Yeah, mums don't want to leave the house because they're breastfeeding and they don't want to have to feed outside, and that is insane.
And I
to
think
me.
that's one of the other reasons why I struggled, because it's like I just don't know how to. You got to learn how to do it without watchers on.
Yes.
Before you then step out the house and try and position without somebody,
all your support and stuff around you.
Yeah, you don't want
I
to
always
be
recommend
flashing in public. Yeah,
with parents leaving the house is just small steps.
Yeah,
you know, you don't have to feed on your first journey out, but get out as soon as you feel comfortable and are strong enough for whatever healing process you've had. But just walk down the road and back.
Yeah.
Go to the coffee shop in the corner, get a takeaway coffee and go home. You don't, work up to that kind of thing. You don't need to now. Mums, we often feel like we have something to prove.
Yeah.
We don't.
Precious.
But if you're comfortable and you're happy to whip your tits out in a cafe, please do it. Not enough people do. And I think the more we see it, and I think it's changing.
Normalize it now.
It is definitely normalizing. It is, we're moving into a more vegan, more eco-conscious, more natural way of living. People are more conscious of microplastics. People are trying to use reusable straws. People are a lot more conscious about what we put into our bodies. And I think because of that, breastfeeding has become quite trendy again, which for whatever reason, I'm stoked, because I think it is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's culture you'll never change. And I think it's so tough when something happens and people say, I don't want to see it. I said, well, you're in a restaurant eating your food. This is his food.
Why would you take your baby to the toilet to have
Do you have your dinner in the toilet? It's disgusting. Please go and you eat there. That's fine. And also, if you don't want to see, look away, mate.
Exactly.
It's just not that deep.
Who would even look?
When a baby's head is on a boob, you can't see anything anyway.
I mean,
you're sexualizing something that is so innate and so basic in animal instincts. Stop making this weird.
Yeah.
Just because you feel uncomfortable that I'm feeding a child, if you wanted to look at boobs, you'd go on the internet and look at boobs, and that's what people now see, and it's really unfortunate. But the reality is, it's just food, and it's life,
that's what boobs are for.
And that's what boobs are for.
That's what they were there for.
They're incredible, and I have had incidents when I was back home where I was told I couldn't breastfeed in this shop. And I said, well, I've got a newborn and I'm going to because he's hungry, and what do you want me to do? And she said, well, you're supposed to feed in the disabled changing room. And I said, well, there's someone in there. I'm not going to not feed him. And then I made a point of walking around the whole of the shop breastfeeding my son.
Amazing.
Because I was like, you can't stop me. And it's literally, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, your manager, I'm ready with my boobs out.
Yeah.
What I will say to families is, if you want to cover up. I
was going to say, have you got any tips? Like, to initially get baby on, do you put a shawl over?
So, what I would suggest is just do it quickly. Okay. Because the more you mess about with other items, your boob is out for longer.
Yeah, and the baby's getting fussy.
So, I would, parents who are you have to wear an appropriate bra. Get your boob ready underneath your clothes first. Get your baby in the position. By the time you've lifted that shirt and got your baby on, your breast and areola and nipple have been out for all of 0.3 seconds before that child is on.
Yeah.
So, and then if you want to cover and that makes you feel more comfortable, please do whatever works for you.
But you don't want to overheat your baby. I've seen.
You need to see your baby.
I saw somebody once. Actually, it's actually when I had my daughter, and she was a little bit older, but my husband was on paternity leave actually, so she must have only been a couple of weeks old. And then there was another lady in the cafe breastfeeding, but she had a shawl all the way over. And then, obviously I wasn't staring, but when I looked back, when she brought baby back out, baby was just sweating.
Well, it's quite. I want you to try and have a roast while you have a towel over your face.
Yeah.
And it's quite. You get really warm during breastfeeding, so does baby, because you're against your skin. You do, if mums are wanting to cover. You do actually get some things that are almost like an apron. It goes around your neck, and they've got like a firmer plastic type rim that you can bend.
Okay.
So that you've got so it almost makes like a curtain rail, so
Oh,
you can still see
okay.
and bond
Yeah.
and adjust your position,
Yeah.
but there's that cover, so
Little
there
curtain
are
rail.
different options.
But then people are going to look at you more, aren't they?
People are going to look wherever. I honestly genuinely think you're more noticeable when you're flapping around with
Exactly,
covers than
yeah.
if you just pop a baby on. And I would sincerely hope that when people are in public, there are women around them who are in their corner. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a cafe and I see a mom feeding a frustrated baby, and you give them the nod you're just giving me now.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I see you.
Yeah.
You're doing really good. I talk to strangers all the time. My husband thinks I'm mad, but I often will just walk past her mum and say, "You're doing a really good job."
Yeah.
No one gets to tell you that, and I think
That's nice.
it's important for parents to feel safe. And I would suggest that if you see a woman who is feeling uncomfortable and trying to feed her child, and she needs a safe space, sit next to her on the train. Don't talk to her.
Yeah.
If someone's giving her a hard time, instead of her having to stick up for herself, stick up for her.
Yeah.
I think we're living in a time where women are a lot more bold than we used to be, and I love it.
Yeah.
Because I'm here to push back.
Yeah,
so by all means, I would be very shocked if a mom who's feeling uncomfortable by breastfeeding her child on a train, and you say to someone who's giving her the eyeballs, "Excuse me, don't you have something better to do?" She will look at you and be grateful. I can guarantee it. So it's a community. It takes a village.
Exactly. Yeah, to raise a child.
To raise a child, to support a mom.
I mean, there are mums that get paranoid as well. I know somebody that I was out breastfeed. She was breastfeeding while we were in the cafe, and it was almost like she was sort of looking around, seeing who was going to stare at her. And it's like, yeah, this culture does need to change.
Yeah,
we don't need to be feeling like that.
Yeah, I remember I was insane. It was day 5 post C-section. I had my son strapped to me in a carrier and went to IKEA because I needed a feeding chair and I wanted to sit in it to feel it because we didn't have one. We were in a tiny 1-bed flat, and I said, "We're going to buy a chair. I want to make sure that it's a comfortable chair." Absolute rookie decision. Would not recommend IKEA on day 5. Absolutely mad. But I sat on the sofa in like a kitcheny area and I breastfed my son, and there was an older man who came to kind of sit on the sofa next to me, and he looked at me and I thought, oh God, I don't know if I'm ready to have my first interaction. And he said, "You're doing a really good job. I'm here with my daughter and her baby, and I know this is really hard." And it was a boomer aged man who I was expecting to, and I was like, okay, so maybe people are actually, not so bad. You just got to believe in humanity, and you've got to focus on what's important, and you've got to just block out the bullshit.
One thing that you said there was IKEA, and I'm really going to sort of divert a little bit, but the Swedish culture is very different. And when you go into IKEA, they've got kids areas and things like that because their culture really embraces children.
Oh, hugely, yeah. Integrated hugely into society.
So again, it's culture, isn't it? If you go to somewhere where everybody's breastfeeding, it's not an issue. It's not a question.
Yeah, I mean, the UK has some of the lowest breastfeeding rates in the world.
And what about the US? Would you say that was quite low as well?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think I'm pretty sure it's better than England and the UK.
I suppose we've got the NHS. We've got
I would say there is this. When I do breastfeeding training at work, there's this video that is fantastic that was done by. I can't remember now. I might send you the link. We can maybe put it in, but it's basically just has all the statistics about how the change that's required to support a breastfeeding nation, and it has some really shocking stats in it. And it's prolonged breastfeeding as well is really tough. We have poor breastfeeding rates in this country from the off, and then they just drop dramatically in comparison to other countries and different cultures. And I think it's just this mentality change and having the support structure, and also acknowledging that it's bloody hard work. You being this tiny human's source of sustenance and life is such a huge gift, and it's a massive sacrifice. You get touched out, you get tired. If you're exclusively breastfeeding and that baby squawks 12 times a night, you're up 12 times a night. It's not for the faint-hearted, and I think we need to acknowledge that moms, breast or bottle, are putting in the work. This is not easy, and I think the more support that you get, the more hydration you get, more love you get, the more people fill your cup, it means you're able to give to your baby. And it's something I say to parents all the time, to mums. I say, if you don't look after yourself, you cannot look after your baby. As hard as it is, you actually need to put your needs first. And they say, oh no, I can't. And I said, no, but you have to. Because if you are running on a half battery, which you will be, but if you're not eating, if you're not drinking enough fluids, if you're not getting rest when you can, and you're running on half, that baby's not going to get your all, and you want to give them your all, so you have to take care of yourself. And it's vital. It's vital. So I love my job because I'm let into this really privileged, intimate space with a mum and a baby, and it's very vulnerable, but it's also just so beautiful. And I love that you call it breastfeeding dyad. It's you're one and the same. You're this beast that can kind of take over the world if you just get given the space and the education and support and understanding to. Sometimes your ship just needs to be righted. You know, it doesn't always have to be huge, but it can be game changing.
Amazing. On that note, yes, where can we find you?
So I've got an Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's the. Can I check these?
I think it's
the feeding space, but I'm pretty sure it's got underscores.
It's got underscores.
So it's at the underscore feeding space. No, feeding underscore space.
Yeah.
And online it is the hyphen feeding hyphen space.com.
Okay.
And yeah, there's contact forms. Please feel free to contact me and we can have a chat, see if there's any services that would work for you.
Because you can work remotely if somebody's not local to Berkshire.
Absolutely. So we can definitely do remote. Yeah. I'm able to go further into London as well. It would just take a bit more planning and timing, but I'm absolutely flexible with that. If the drive is further than half an hour, there will be an additional charge for distance, but I'm happy to travel families, able to do virtual. I also have a service called Consultant in Your Pocket. So it's you just have a WhatsApp mate to talk to for a while, to ask all your questions and send pictures and do whatever you need to do during that space. And sometimes that's all you need.
And do you get those in the middle of the night when we're up with baby?
I do. So I have to say that I answer within kind of semi-business hours as soon as I'm able to, because I can't be.
You can't be responding.
I can't be responding at all. But yes, I think that having a safe space to message at 3 a.m. and say, oh my God, my nipples are so sore, help, you know, which happens. I think that that's really nice. So it's virtual and in-person home visits, I think, are the most beneficial because one, you're in your safe space, but you've got the chairs you're going to be using, you've got the cushions you're going to be using, the bottle, your water bottle's next to you where you normally sit, you know, it's the most realistic thing to what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thank you. I loved it. It's been brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kerry.
Thank you so much, Emma.